everyone. Ready for a deep dive into a topic that's not often talked about openly?
Yeah, it can be a tough one.
We're going to be tackling parental regret today.
Hmm.
It's heavy stuff, but we're approaching it with sensitivity and, a good dose of curiosity.
Definitely.
You guys share some sources with us that really get to the core of this issue.
Yeah.
Like the podcast episode, The Silent Regret, a conversation about the choice to parent.
Right.
Plus, we've got all these raw discussions happening online on platforms like TikTok and Reddit, and some thought-provoking articles about declining birth rates.
Interesting stuff.
We even have some advice from a therapist on coping with these feelings.
It's going to be a good one.
There's this big societal pressure to have children, almost like it's a given.
Right, like it's just expected.
But the reality is it's a huge life decision.
Oh, absolutely.
And for some, it leads to regret that they feel they can't really talk about openly.
Yeah, it's like this unspoken taboo.
So today, we're going to unpack what's causing this regret, what it means for society, and how people are dealing with these feelings.
Important stuff to discuss, for sure.
Let's start with those unfiltered voices from online spaces like the Regretful Parents subreddit.
Okay, yeah.
It's a place where people can express their frustrations about being a parent.
And they don't hold back.
It's pretty intense reading some of these posts.
Definitely.
One person writes, "I hate mothering. Misery on top of pain every single day since she was born."
Wow.
Another says, "I feel so tied up. I want to get an education. I want to work and travel. I want to live again."
You can feel the sense of loss in their words.
It's like they're grieving for the life they thought they'd have.
Yeah, that freedom and those dreams they had to put on hold.
And it could be so isolating because they're afraid to talk about these feelings with friends or family.
Right, who wants to be judged for not loving parenthood?
They don't want to be seen as a bad parent.
There's so much pressure to fit this perfect image.
And it's not just moms feeling this way.
Yeah. Oh, definitely not.
There are dads expressing these same feelings too.
Yeah.
One dad wrote, "Day after day after day, and it never ends. My brain and nerves are completely shot."
You can hear the exhaustion in that feeling of being constantly on.
So this whole conversation online about parental regret caught the eye of Matt Walsh.
Oh, right, the conservative commentator.
He did a whole YouTube video reacting to the Regretful Parents subreddit.
Interesting.
His initial reaction was pretty strong.
Yeah, how did he put it?
He called it bleak and horrific.
Strong words.
So he decided to offer his perspective.
Okay, what's his take?
He argues that the problem isn't with being a parent itself, but with parents not taking charge of their emotions
Interesting.
and not setting clear boundaries with their kids.
Okay.
He even compares it to a ship mutiny.
A mutiny.
Yeah, he says if the crew senses the captain is weak, they'll take over.
Ah, I see, like the kids are rebelling.
Exactly. He's saying if parents aren't firm and consistent, their kids will lose respect and act out.
So it's all about control and discipline, in his view.
Right. He believes parents need to regain control, set rules, and not let their kids run the show.
Okay. And what happens if they don't?
He warns that the kids will end up resenting their parents later in life
Strong message there.
and want nothing to do with them.
So he's coming at it from a very traditional parenting perspective.
Definitely. He shared a story about his own experience to illustrate his point.
Oh, what happened?
He has 6 kids, including 2 sets of twins.
Wow, 6 kids.
And his last set of twins were both colicky.
Oh, man, I can only imagine.
He described it as 6 months of nonstop crying, morning, noon, and night,
That's tough.
all while trying to take care of 4 other kids.
So he's speaking from experience, but also from a particular viewpoint on how to handle those challenges.
Exactly. It's a valuable perspective, but it's important to remember there are many different parenting styles out there.
Right, what works for one family might not work for another.
Okay, so we've heard from parents who regret having children and a commentator who thinks stricter parenting is the solution. Now let's switch gears and hear from someone who chose not to have kids at all.
That'll give us a whole different angle on this whole discussion.
We're going to watch a YouTube video by Helena Woods.
Okay,
She calls herself Childfree by choice.
got it.
And she starts by talking about how frustrating it is when people make assumptions about those who don't have kids.
Like what kind of assumptions?
Like assuming they hate children,
Oh, yeah, I've heard that one.
or that they don't love their partner.
Or that they're just selfish and career-driven.
Exactly. Or that they have some unresolved trauma from their childhood.
It's amazing how quick people are to judge, isn't it?
It really is. Woods argues that the decision to have or not have children is deeply personal,
It should be.
and it should be based on your own values and desires.
Absolutely.
She talks about the huge responsibility of raising a child.
Yeah.
how it needs to align with your own dreams and aspirations.
It's about making choices that are right for you, not for society.
She also brings up the impact kids have on other areas of your life.
Like what?
Your relationship with your partner, your career, your free time.
Right. Things people who choose not to have kids might really value.
She emphasizes the importance of respecting women's choices about their bodies and lives.
It's about autonomy and freedom from pressure.
One thing that stuck with me was her observation that some women feel personally attacked when other women choose not to have kids.
That's interesting.
It's like they see it as a challenge to traditional gender roles.
Maybe it makes them question their own choices.
It's definitely food for thought.
Yeah.
And it connects to a larger trend that we're seeing globally.
You mean declining birth rates?
Exactly. Over the past century, especially in North America and Europe, there's been a major shift in how many kids people are having.
And how society views the role of children.
So let's dive into those trends and explore what's driving this big demographic change.
Okay, let's do it. So we were talking about declining birth rates.
It's a pretty major shift.
Oh yeah, big time.
Like 100 years ago, big families were totally normal.
Right, the more the merrier.
Now,
Not so much.
nope, families are way smaller these days.
What's behind all that?
Well, lots of things are going on.
Like what?
One of the biggest is women having more power.
Okay.
As women got more education and joined the workforce, their opportunities just exploded.
Right. They have more choices.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the opportunity cost of kids went up.
Opportunity cost. What's that mean?
Basically, women were giving up more to have kids.
Like what?
Career stuff, their income, even just feeling fulfilled.
So they're choosing smaller families or no kids at all?
It makes sense. If you've worked hard for a career, kids can feel like a huge step back.
Or like you're putting your life on hold.
Yeah, maybe even forever.
And it's not just personal choices.
Nope.
Society's view of kids has changed too.
Big time.
In the past, kids were like little workers.
Right, helping out on the farm or whatever.
Contributing to the family income.
But that's totally different now.
Oh yeah, especially in places like North America and Europe.
Kids cost a fortune to raise.
You're telling me. Childcare, education, all that stuff adds up.
So they're more of a financial burden than a help.
Basically.
What else is contributing to fewer babies being born?
Well, less kids are dying young.
That's good.
It is.
Yeah.
In the past, families would have lots of kids because some wouldn't make it.
Sad, but true.
But now, with better medicine and healthcare, way fewer kids die young.
So you don't need a ton of kids to make sure some survive.
Exactly.
So parents can focus on giving each kid a good life.
Right. Quality over quantity.
And it's not just a temporary thing.
Nope.
This whole decline in birth is going to keep going, isn't it?
That's what the experts are saying.
And that could have some big impacts.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like what?
Well, we might have fewer workers in the future,
Leading to.
slower economic growth, more pressure on things like Social Security and healthcare. And businesses might start relying more on robots.
So people could lose their jobs.
Potentially.
Yeah.
And it could make economic inequality worse.
No, it's good.
Definitely a lot to think about.
It's more than just numbers.
Absolutely.
It's about how we adapt as a society.
And how we build a future that works for everyone.
So we've talked about the reasons for parental regret, the trends, the possible consequences.
Right.
But what about people who are feeling this way right now?
Yeah, what can they do?
How do they deal with it?
Thankfully, there are some resources out there.
Okay, like what?
We found this therapist on YouTube on the Mended Light channel.
Okay.
He had some really good advice.
I'm curious to hear what he says.
Me too.
It can't be easy feeling regret about having kids.
No, it can make you feel like a terrible parent.
And probably really alone.
Definitely.
So what does he say?
Well, he starts by saying that regret doesn't make you a bad parent.
That's good to hear.
It's normal. It's human.
Okay.
He says parenthood is hard. And it's not all sunshine and roses.
Right, it's real life.
There are going to be days you feel like you're failing.
That's just part of it.
But that doesn't mean you made a mistake.
Okay, that makes sense.
He also says to avoid getting stuck in what-if thinking.
Like, what if I hadn't had kids?
Yeah, exactly. That can be really damaging.
It keeps you from enjoying your life now.
Right. Focus on what you can control.
Make the best of your situation.
He says to find the good stuff about being a parent. Cherish those little moments with your kids.
Remember why you love them.
And he's big on seeking support.
Like
Therapy, support groups, even just friends and family.
having people to talk to can make a huge difference.
Totally. And he reminds parents that their kids are their own people.
It's not your job to control their whole life.
You can guide them, support them.
But they get to make their own choices
Exactly. It's about finding that balance.
between being a parent and letting them be themselves.
This has been a pretty intense deep dive, but it's important to remember there are lots of different experiences out there.
You're right, we've heard from so many different voices.
Parents who regret it, people who chose not to have kids.
Experts analyzing the trends. It's all part of this bigger conversation.
About what it means to be a parent in today's world.
And what a fulfilling life looks like.
Exactly.
So where do we go from here?
That's the big question.
Right. What does this mean for people who are deciding whether or not to have kids?
It's a choice each person has to make for themselves.
There's no right answer for everyone.
It's about figuring out what's right for you.
And it's a choice that comes with a lot of pressure these days.
Oh, absolutely.
We've just scratched the surface of this topic,
Yeah.
but we've explored so many different angles.
From personal stories to expert opinions.
Yeah, one thing's for sure,
What's that?
regretting parenthood doesn't make you a bad parent.
It's a human experience.
It's about being honest about those feelings
Right.
and finding ways to deal with them.
Like talking to someone.
Getting support, adjusting your expectations.
We're just accepting how you feel.
So, given all this pressure to have kids
Mm-hmm.
and the potential problems with fewer kids being born,
Like economic issues.
and all these real stories of regret,
Yeah.
how do you see our conversations about parenthood changing in the future?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
I think we're already starting to be more open about it.
Yeah, maybe
Talking about the good and the bad.
it's been taboo for too long.
Definitely.
We need to create a space where people can share their experiences
Absolutely.
without being judged.
No matter what they choose.
Whether it's having kids, not having kids,
Or something in between.
it's about respecting individual choice.
And supporting all kinds of families.
This deep dive has given us so much to think about,
It has.
both personally and as a society.
We've covered a lot.
And as always, we encourage you guys to keep thinking about these things
Mm-hmm.
and talk about them with each other,
Have those conversations.
because that's how we learn and grow.
It's how we create a more understanding world.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into parental regret.
It's been great exploring this with you.
We'll catch you on our next one.
Until then, keep those minds curious.
And those hearts open